Welcome to another episode of Distory. My name is Kirk from Walrus Park, and this evening, I hope you're hungry, because I know we are. We're going to dive back in time to the opening of Epcot in 1982 to discuss Kitchen Kabaret, or if anybody who has been in the Cosmic Rewind queue, Veggie Fruit, as Star-Lord calls it out. And then we're going to actually talk about another one that replaces it, and actually what happens afterwards with Food Rocks, and then what happens beyond, which is pretty exciting, and I uncovered a lot. So Kate, the Disney Cicerone, is with me as always to discuss. Kate, how are we doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing good. It was really fun to dive into this like super old Epcot history. I've been kind of in an Epcot zone for a while, really digging deep into Epcot's history. So this is perfect for me.
An Epcotian, if you will, an Epcot-Terran.
Epcot-Terran, that's me.
Dude, why didn't anybody tell me I was on?
So yeah, I'm excited. And we originally were just going to do Kitchen Kabaret. I think we were both kind of like, yes, let's go there. Let's do Kitchen Kabaret.
Yeah,
and then
we've been talking about it for a long time, and then
yeah.
I don't know. Here, hang on. I'm gonna let you finish your thought, and then I feel like I'm gonna mirror it. So.
Oh yeah, well, I was like, we cannot do Kitchen Kabaret without doing Food Rocks, because I watched it and I laughed hysterically for like the whole show. So it's like
I basically realized that I thought Kitchen Kabaret was Food Rocks, and I didn't realize that there was two separate shows. And I know I saw Food Rocks as a kid. I did not see Kitchen Kabaret ever as a kid. So, and it bothers me to my core that Food Rocks still doesn't exist. There's a multitude of reasons for why that may be, but does it still exist? Dun, 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 cliffhanger.
So let's head back then. Before we get to Food Rocks, let's go back to the beginning of Epcot, which is October 1st, 1982. That was Epcot's opening day, and that is when Kitchen Kabaret first showed up, which was, in a nutshell, we'll get more in depth with it, but it was a 13-minute audio animatronic show at Epcot in the land that was sponsored by Kraft Foods. So Kirk is showing you a map there, and I think I have a picture of the outside of the land at this time that shows you the Kraft sponsorship, which is kind of fun.
I like the palm trees.
Yeah, it's like we don't have those anymore. We still have this a sign out there, but we don't have the palm trees, and so that says
that sign has changed quite a few times as well.
It has indeed. And then the inside, I have a picture of the little neon sign that you see in the back of all these tables. Oh, you got it too. Yours is better than mine. You win.
I know. Wow. You're welcome. You know what was crazy is like I was looking at this fountain. I don't remember this. I definitely never set foot in Epcot when it looked like this. With this giant fountain and the umbrellas looking like this. In the 90s, though, I remember it. But yeah, this was in 82. But you can see Kitchen Kabaret. For folks that are following along, it would be the left-hand side staircase and escalator, which would lead you down to, nowadays, Soarin'.
Yeah, you can see there's the little escalator, and behind there is the sign.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look over here, you can see to the right-hand side, just behind that fountain, is the land. You can kind of see where the boats would be. And then you notice that over here is where the restrooms to the left-hand side. So Soarin' would have been right along. Actually, Soarin's like area is more towards this pillar-ish.
Yeah.
Because this is more of like an exit area.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kitchen Kabaret is the exit queue of Soarin'.
But yeah, so Kitchen Kabaret. This one was, there was the giant Kraft logo on the stage curtain. And so once Kraft was bought by the Philip Morris Company in 1988 and merged with General Foods, the curtain was then changed to say Kraft General Foods. So that's kind of just the sponsorship piece of it. This show was created by Steve Kirk under the leadership of and Exitentia was also involved in it. Steve Kirk said, "We had a great time with Kitchen Kabaret. I'm not sure how much nutritional information actually got across, but it was just wonderful. I mean, singing fruits and vegetables, how can you go wrong, right?"
Yeah, that milk character is still, he showed up in a 50th celebration pin. So, like, he is still a decorated, celebrated icon of this whole entire era.
Yeah, he's still kicking in some way or another. So I have some other quotes about the show, but I feel like we should talk about what it was first before I maybe get into those quotes, because they give people some context. Do we want to start it? I do have a couple pictures of the lobby of it if we want to start outside the show. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the best I got is here. So this is as far as I got lobby-wise. I had more for Food Rocks.
I have a couple. They have these like posters that are kind of like what you're going to see inside the show, right? So there's the colander combo and the Fiesta fruit. This one is, I don't have better pictures of these. It says today's comedy special, ham and eggs. And it shows it's kind of like an old school, like retro poster, because they were looking for, a cabaret was like a 1940 style show with different variety of songs, right? So that was the essence of what they were capturing here. And so all of these posters had to do with that. So this one, I don't even think I can read. I'm not even sure what this is. Maybe dairy? Wait, here it is. Stars of the Milky Way. But I can't read it because the photo is so awful.
Well, I mean, how could it not be dairy? It is the Milky Way.
And then they have just the general food items that are larger than life kind of up on the walls, meats and just really fun pictures. You don't get a lot of lobby pictures when you do history. People take a lot of video and pictures of the show and not a lot of like the queues and lobbies. So whenever I find those, I'm like, I'm there. I do have some concept art and sculptures too, if we want to talk about those at all. But I don't know, how do we want to do this? Do we want to talk about like pieces of the show? Do we want to start with concept art? Because I don't know.
I think you concepts always start with the beginning and then get into how it actually looks.
Alrighty. So this is some of the original concept art that I know of. There's a couple ones. This is one of them, which shows the kitchen crack pots and a variety of fruits and vegetables. And they have a lot of the craft pieces, like the condiments from craft. So they have mayo and Parmesan cheese and mustard and things like that. So those are the ones in the kitchen crack pots were those. This one also was one I found for concept art, which I think is really interesting. And it's the same kind of concept. Cool. Yeah, and I really like the cereal sisters or whatever up on the shelf. They're fun.
Yeah, that's for the bakery song. I like the toast, too. The toast is
stellar.
Yeah.
The Bugle Boy toast. We'll get into that. I do have some pictures, too, of... This is some original... I don't know. I think this is by Steve Kirk. So here's some original vegetable and fruit pictures by Steve Kirk. And then... every time I think of that, I think of you because I'm like, it's like Kirk.
But it's not me.
It's not you. And also, I think this was a Raleigh Crump one that shows the refrigerator with the dairies. And then this is our host, Bonnie Appetit on it. But that's the kitchen with Raleigh Crump. And you do see ham and eggs kind of chilling. This is very Raleigh Crump style ham and eggs, too. He's got like one eye. It's like a Cyclops ham.
Yeah, well, the egg stays the same, and the egg actually becomes an icon for the map as well. They're the best part of the show.
But ham and eggs?
Oh, yeah.
You think ham and eggs are the best part of the show?
Okay. All right, now we'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
And the bread in here is in a bread box, which I think is really interesting. So they deviated from that and started shoving them up in the cabinet instead of in the bread box. Do you have more concepts? I have a couple like maquettes and models.
I only saw some of the D23 stuff.
Okay. So I have, this is them sculpting the original characters here. So we got, I think that's what, the tomato? Looks like a pumpkin. I don't know, it's hard to say. And then I think that's an eggplant, but I'm not sure. It's not ham. So this is ham. This is the maquette for ham. And he's kind of like, there he is. You got to see his eyes. Those.
This is very 80s. You know, anybody who can think of old school animation, even animation looked like this. Like, if you think about the era of just post Smurfs, you got a lot of different characters that were similar in the 80s cartoons.
Show this one. So that's the drawing. And whoa, no, you took it away.
Sorry.
Just give you that drawing. I'm
say leave the tomato up, dude.
Leave the tomato. I need the tomato.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see how they progress there to the maquette.
Look at this. Look at this pineapple.
They're fabulous. And then I do have a little maquette of the toast, which is fun, blowing away on his bugle horn there. His cheeks.
I would agree. I feel like, hang on, I'm gonna pull these up real quick because I think it's apropos. The claymation style of the California raisins, which they were 87-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, probably almost nobody knows what this is unless you were in the 80s. You know, you were around in the 80s, you knew the California raisins, but like that is very, very true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that style. It's crazy. They're huge.
So I feel like I've got one more. Let's see. Okay, so this one is actually in the model shop with them making the characters. So we've got Ham over here, and then we have the big old broccoli that's in the veggie fruit song.
Pretty tall.
He's super tall. He's got to be at least like 6
plus.
6+ feet tall. And I don't think I have any more than that. I think that's most of the concepts. I just have the general poster for Kitchen Kabaret with the veggie fruit song.
So they re-released that too as a print for I don't know why. It was just on. They had them in the Odyssey Pavilion for a hot second, and then they also were selling them on Shop Disney for a hot second.
Before we get into the show, I have a couple of quotes too about the Kitchen Kabaret besides the one we just heard from Steve Kirk. So this one's from Raleigh Crump. He was kind of like supervisor of all these people making this show. Kitchen Kabaret helped illustrate a point I always make, that you really have to believe in the people that work for you and just turn them loose. I'm a big believer in that you get a much better end product when you're not just some dictator to your team. Let them be creative and explore stuff that may or may not work, which I think is just a wonderful leadership quote in general. And then he also said, I remember the characters that were in Kitchen Kabaret were some pretty original and stylized creations. Everything was in the middle of getting sculpted when I got a call from one of my guys telling me that John Hench wanted us to redesign all the characters. I went down there and found John ranting and raving, saying that what we did were not the typical Disney characters. He wanted us to have Disney-type characters in the show. Otherwise, he felt it wasn't going to be successful. He was talking about the kind everyone was used to, with 3 stripes and the white gloves and so on. I listened to John rant and rave for a while about that and blow off some steam. When he started winding down, I said very calmly, John, let me ask you something. Wasn't there an Academy Award that Disney won one time that didn't feature any Disney-type characters, called Toot, Whistle, Plunk, and Boom? John stared at me for a second and then just turned around and walked away. I broke his entire rant right there, because you have to remember, something doesn't always have to look like Mickey Mouse to work out for the best.
Yeah, I mean, I get where he's coming from with that cheddar cheese lady. Got like a brooch. That yogurt looks demonic. And yeah, who would have thought that a lounge singing milk carton would be a winner?
Well, so Toot, Whistle, Plunk, and Boom, I looked it up because I was like, I feel like I saw this before, and I have a long time ago. This is the first Disney cartoon to be filmed and released in widescreen CinemaScope, and it 18th for Oscar for Best Short Subject in Cartoons. And in 1994, it was voted number 29 of the 50 greatest cartoons of all time by members of the animation film field.
Did you watch this film? Did you see any of this?
I did. Yeah, it's not.
What do you think?
Long. What are you talking about? Toot, Whistle, Plunk, and Boom?
Yeah.
No, it was really interesting. It reminded me a lot of like Soul. I feel like they recycled that. But also reminded me of was it Donald in Magic Land? Was that what it was called? It reminded me of that style of animation as well. They pulled a lot from that, I think. It's not very long. It's like less than 14 minutes probably. So it's you can YouTube it and watch it, and it's a really great Also really wonderful. I can see why it won the awards that it did, because it illustrates music in a really fun way that's creative. So
That's cool. I like that.
anyway,
I mean, also, ready? I'm gonna throw this out here because the timing of it also is apropos. Is education and music was very vogue in the 80s. You have to remember a massive competitor with Schoolhouse Rocks, Schoolhouse Rocks was incredible. That's how I learned how bills get passed as law.
I think that's how we all learned, and how, what was it? Like, and I missed a bill, but they also had all the grammar lessons, right?
Yeah. There was
lessons.
Mr. Martin is the subject of my sentence, and what the predicate says he does. Mr. Martin walks, Mr. Martin talks, Mr. Martin reads, Mr. Martin loves.
And like conjunction, conjunction.
Yeah.
Junction.
Conjunction. What's your function? Yep. 3-0. It's the magic number. Do you remember when they re-released all of these with like covers? It was like a yellow CD. I had it as a kid.
That's
it was
funny.
awesome. Oh man, and it was like Weezer played on it.
Weezer.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was like an awesome album. I don't know. Hang on, this was in 1996, and yeah, it was a plastic, like a
No, I remember that.
like a hard plastic, Lemon Heads, Moby. Yeah, it was just crazy. Blind Melon, Better Than Ezra. It was awesome.
Blind Melon. Oh my goodness.
Skee-Lo was in it. Oh yeah, dude, it was a great album.
Bringing it back.
That was great.
Well, that was a fun jot down memory lane. Shall we go back?
Yeah, but Schoolhouse Rocks makes sense. Schoolhouse Rocks makes sense because, I mean, making people sing and listen to things in education makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's very, very appropriate for that. And it's true to Disney history, too, because they've had that all throughout Disney history. They did educational films and they included music in it. So
I would also like to point out the fact that Disney is very protective of their intellectual property. But man, oh man, does Disney love to parody and take things from popular culture and utilize in their films, their attractions, etc. Because I even think about this every single time I go on It's Tough to Be a Bug, where they pull the termite detour who says, I'll be back. Like, it's such a rip, but I'm just saying, we all take inspo from other things.
That's true. That's so true. Well, shall we go and dive into the actual show aspect of Kitchen Kabaret?
Let's get into the show.
Let's get in the show. And to do that, we need to start out with our good friend, Bonnie Appetit. Jump scare. Brace yourself.
Yeah, she's the looker.
She's got that like 80s makeup down pat. She's got the thick eyeshadow and the really bright colored lipstick.
If you're a fan of horror films and you like the new Megan, this might make you feel like you're watching Megan.
It's so true. Oh my goodness.
She's a little something.
She introduced the show, and in each act of the show, she advocated for a different like healthy eating or the forward food group. She would just like introduce whatever is going to happen next, right? What?
That's my sleep paralysis monster.
What are you talking about? She's not creepy at all.
At least you can confront her now. Now that you know the demon, you could just
Make it
stop. She has a very lovely voice. Okay, I'll give her that. She has a very lovely voice, and she's very calming. She has lots of outfit changes. So there's at least 4 or 5 Bonnies that we see throughout the show.
She changes several times. I feel like it's 5, but she kicks off the show. Her voice. She's voiced by Janine Brown, by the way. But she kicks off the show sitting on the cookbooks to a Broadway style outfit, like Kirk showed you, to sing Mealtime Blues is her first song. What's happening over there?
You're reading, and I'm hearing cats meowing, and cats just walked over my laptop, so it was hard to pit.
A cat walked over your laptop.
Yeah.
Well, we're very professional here at Distory.
It's a serious job, right?
Serious.
You know, your cats come in here, you think you own the place. This is our recording studio.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So she sings Mealtime Blues as kind of like an introduction to this cabaret show. And she says, if I don't plan a proper meal, my menu will be bad news. Oh, the mealtime blues can get you every time you dine, but we all can beat that rap and end up feeling fine. So on those days when we feel downcast, I'll give you some clues to work magic in our kitchen, and chase away the mealtime blues. Now the timing's right, the show's prepared, let me serve it on up to you. And so then the show begins with Act 1. And Act 1 is the kitchen crackpots, which I feel like we need a close-up of those crackpots.
They're in the center.
I have one of the pianist using a matchstick. He has like a matchstick piano with salt and pepper shakers on either side and like a big cocoa box behind him for his piano.
I like how he's kind of got like the dapperish Dan / old saloon pianist garter around his arm too. That's like an old vaudevillian kind of throwback.
Looks like he's hitting on you. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, he's got it. Wait, what is he? What kind of?
I think it's a spice. Like they have.
Oh,
they're all like they're condiments. I think in the crack pots. So I think he's some sort of spice.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he was a raspberry, he'd have the Riz, but you know.
I don't know. So I think he's a spice because I think they're all spices or condiments. There is a jar of mustard and a jar of mayo, and mayo is playing the drums with some canned goods. Is this the one that you were showing? Is it this red one? This again? I think this through when we just get the tower up. I don't even know how to come back from that. Okay.
I don't know.
Should we do?
It was just.
I'm gonna move on because we'll be here all night doing this if we keep looking at these fruits and vegetables.
All right, ready? I'll get us on track here. Okay, so Bonnie, just interesting fun fact is Bonnie is on one of those Turnstile or Lazy Susan style scene changers, and they utilize this for both. Yeah, that they use this for Food Rocks as well as for Kitchen Cabaret. So when they're doing scene changes, for anybody who is a Carousel of Progress fan or a Country Bears fan, same exact system is utilized here as well. So,
yes, for the side, both sides of the stage have one of those.
Right.
It has like one character on one side and one on the other, although it's the same character. It's on both sides. She has its different outfits. A voice is heard saying, okay, crackpots, let's get cooking. And the crackpots kind of rise from the floor, and then they just kick it off doing kind of a number. And they're singing as the 4 basic food groups based on the food groups we knew at the time in early 80s. That's what the show's based on. So
yeah, and like we can recognize that right now it's like one plate is the nutritional guidelines from the federal government. This was still before the food guide pyramid, which is what I grew up with. That's how you were supposed to eat.
I feel like the pyramid came in 1982. So they did have the pyramid in that time, and it looked like this, which is what we know. We know the food pyramid, those of you who are wondering.
Used sparingly.
Yeah.
Little did we know that you just turn this upside down and you have the keto diet.
Yeah. Do you have anything else for the crackpots before we move on?
For chase those mealtime blues away, I got nothing.
Okay.
You covered it up. Act 2 is The Stars of the Milky Way by Mr. Dairy Goods and his Stars of the Milky Way. And basically, this is a character that again gets immortalized for this, shows up in Food Rocks, and then also gets merch for it last year. Mr. Dairy Goods, and he's a singing milk carton who comes out of the refrigerator holding an old-fashioned radio-style microphone close to his mouth, crooning instructions to the 3 dairy products: Miss Cheese, Miss Yogurt, and Miss Ice Cream.
You can see them chilling with him in the fridge.
Yeah,
they did have an effect too, where they had fog from dry ice or whatever kind of coming when you open the fridge, and they kind of pop out of it, and then there's the fog comes out of the fridge because you've opened the fridge. And each character sang a short cameo. So Miss Cheese sang Mae West, Miss Ice Cream sang Eartha Kitt. But it was a style of a 1930s costume extravaganza. So it's as part of our cabaret show. This is a 1930s style costume extravaganza. And I have lyrics for this whole thing, but I don't read them all because we'll be here all night. But so it's time to meet some beauties at this our rendezvous. We all come from the dairy and moving words for you. With grace and ease, here is Miss Cheese, a delightful array of curds. She says, your taste buds I'll appease. I know how to please. I'm known that I'm too good for words. Oh, isn't that right, big boy? But I think my favorite...
Stop reading, Kate.
This is a show. It's just history. This is just kitchen cabaret. I did like Miss Yogurt because she says, your palate is assured. I'm really quite cultured, and I make a soured scene okay at each and every day. So it's she's very cultured. She's yogurt.
Basically, Mr. Dairy Goods, the entire part is just hitting on the different dairy products. He's all he does is he just compliments them frivolously,
Yeah.
A beauty who's charming and sweet, talking about Miss Ice Cream. Well, all of them seem
flirty back and forth.
There's sweet. It's very I was gonna say it's it's nice to flirt with you, Miss Yogurt. They just all flirt with. Mr. Dairy Goods. That's how he is.
I'm keeping it as kid friendly as I got, but it's also it is the history. It's the script sequence, and it's awkward. So
all right, I'll read it, and I'm gonna read it deadpan. This is Miss. It's gonna be hard. Miss Ice Cream. I'm cool through and through, and I've got a double scoop for you. To be with me, baby, it's such a tasty treat.
There's things happening in that fridge. I'll tell you.
You thought that. Close the door, please. Yeah.
I don't have anything else for this act. Is there anything else you'd like to?
Oh, I can't even read the last. Let's just move on. Let's move to the next act. I can't.
I have to keep it PG. So moving on to Act 3 is the Boogie Woogie Bakery Boy by the Cereal Sisters, which might sound familiar if you know the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy with the Andrew Singers that sang that in the 1940s. So this is wartime songs, right? So they had Marzie Oates, Rennie Rice, and Connie Corn were our 3 cereal sisters that perched upon the shelf, and they looked a little something like this.
Oh, they're bad looking.
They
are not good looking. They're the worst ones by far.
I don't know what's going on with this one. She looks like a bear. She's supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know why Rice has pigtails, and she looks like Teddy Ruxpin.
She does. And then there's this, I don't know what this is, cereal. This must be some sort of cereal in a box. And then there's...
To the right is corn, to the left is oats. So
okay. This is
the last one is oats, rice, and corn.
Oh, and corn. I see it now. Yeah.
I don't know why corn is in a box, though. I guess corn starch. Corn
flakes?
Corn starch.
Corn something?
That's what it's called.
So they sang this parody song, I think, but my favorite part about this, though, is like midway through the song, we have somebody else join, and that is a bread slice with glasses that was revealed as when a kitchen cabinet was opened, and he would appear. And his then he had, for another part of it, he had a second solo, and he appears from a toaster as well. So this is our friend bread slice, which we saw the concept art for before, or the maquette for earlier. This is what he looks like. Here, I'll pull the maquette up so we can get both side by side there.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Wouldn't you want to see a piece of bread toasted up? And he's clearly jamming.
He got sunglasses, though, if you notice. You know?
He looks cooler.
He didn't have sunglasses in the maquette. He acquired
also his maquette. His maquette hands are very scary. They're very salad fingers, and I'm not into it.
Oh, yeah. He looks
I don't know what that's all about.
Frightening. Yeah, I don't know. So,
yeah.
I'll read a little piece of it. It starts with, like, we'd like to sing about a friend who has come really far. He started with some dough, and then he rose to be a star. He's hot when he leads the bread and cereal group. An oven-right trooper, he can never be duped. It's known that he's no clown, a boogie-woogie bakery boy, the bread with the sound. And then that's when he pops up with his trumpet in a cupboard opposite the window, and they say he's cute. I'm gonna just skip this part. Then eventually it gets down to, like, he's cleared up his act for a new slice of life. We're glad he kept his sound. A boogie woogie bakery boy, a toast of the town. Take it from the toast. Breads and cereals are the most. So it's a fun little act with the Anderson sisters. Maybe we'll have to sing Food Rocks. I think I can remember those ones better than I can these ones.
Yeah, well, these ones are not very contemporary. The 90s ones are all things I grew up with.
And then, yeah. All right. So should we move on to your favorite act?
Yeah, Act 4, the Meat Ditties with Ham and Eggs. Ham and Eggs was a vaudevillian-style comic rendition of the Meat Group. Can you help? The rendition of The Meat Group Can Help You Keep Strong, in which Mr. Ham and Mr. Eggs told jokes and sang a few short ditties. And at the end, Mr. Ham got angry because Mr. Eggs kept telling corny jokes and decided to split from the duo to join another protein group.
Yeah. They have a whole bunch of dad jokes in there. I was
just thinking of this. Like, isn't this kind of interesting that we see it in Toy Story Mania with Ham and Eggs?
Thinking of that.
The only thing that kicked it is we have Mr. Potato Head as our barker, who has a hat that is vaudevillian that looks exactly like Mr. Eggs. The only thing that they missed here is if this was with a Z or if they would have put ham with the hat or an egg with the hat. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you look at, I mean, this is obviously not ham and egg, but clearly there is a callback to Ham and Eggs. Hang on, look up Potato Head. Because, I mean, he's got that vibe.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a bow tie, though.
So Ham was voiced by Alan Reed. And, yeah, they've got, like, a lot of, they do a lot of bickering. And then they just kind of, like...
Yeah, they basically just, like, yell at each other.
And Eggs is like, home on the range and the pan with the butter, and Ham's like, not that song, the one we rehearsed. Eggs is like, oh, and then they start to sing like the song they rehearsed, and again they just go back and forth for a while, and then there's a lot of dad jokes in this one. I don't know if you have any particular that you loved, but he does say, hold it right there, one more crack out of you and this act is finished. One more crack out of me and the yoke's on you.
Well, at the end, they kept on yelling at each other, and Ham basically was saying all the different proteins that he would replace eggs with if he left. They're not great. They're not great jokes.
No, but
I just think they're just hokey looking, and I think they just make me laugh. I think the character itself, especially Eggs, just makes me really crack up. That was a try for that one. Yeah,
I know. It's Those eyes, though, for Ham, they're just so vacant.
Yeah. Imagine if you were in a waistcoat and a pocket watch and I'm assuming a breakfast.
Breakfast meat. It's funny because they do have like they look like they're in some pans and they're being cooked in the show. So
at the very end of it, what happens is they have to remove them from the stage, and they do that in Food Rocks too with transitions. But what they do is they like show a bunch of like fog, steam, and then they lower them into the pan.
It's like they're melting into the pan. So we talked about your favorite one. Should we move on to my favorite one now? I thought
number 5, veggie, fruit.
Veggie, fruit by the Colander Combo and the Fiesta Fruit. So this act featured some night sounds, Latin percussion, and low lighting. And they also had, this song is featured in Epcot Forever. So if you've watched that show somewhat recently, you would notice this song in there. It's also, if you've ever spent any significant time on hold with Disney, they do play this song in the hold music. And I just count how many times it comes around as I'm on hold. That's part of my fun being at home.
I wonder if they probably market it. Give them the vegetables.
So it's also, this is what you mentioned before. It is mentioned by Quill in Guardians of the Galaxy Q line. He says, that was totally my idea, and Epcot too, because I love that place. It's awesome. I went there as a kid, and I cannot wait to go back and ride Horizons and see the energy dinosaurs and hear the veggie, fruit. It's the best. So listen for that as a little Easter egg, audio Easter egg if you're in the queue for Guardians of the Galaxy in Epcot. But they sang veggie, fruit, veggie, fruit. So, and they just sing, there's no substitute for vegetables. That's all their act is about. I do love that the in the back, the broccoli is like every once in a while his sunglasses will just like flip up randomly. And
he grows as well. Like the broccoli.
Yes, he does. And then there's like randomly fireworks behind him. Just, bring it on.
They remind me a lot of 3 Cabs or Muppets 3D style fireworks.
Yeah, me too. Yep. So, fun little broccoli. The stalk of broccoli grows a little bit. And then the bananas have these kind of bizarre eyes as well. So, yeah, that's where the veggie, fruit song comes from.
Did you hear about the ear of corn that got a restraining order?
No. What about him?
Yeah, they detained him because he was a stalker.
Boo. Throw my tomatoes at you.
See, that's appropriate. This is a good time to throw tomatoes. I need more lycopene in my diet.
Good cabaret. They have everybody come back on stage and we do a big musical number. And that's exactly what they do. Everybody rolls up on the stage and they all sing together their final number, which is the cabaret finale, including our host, Bonnie. It says, we'd like to thank you all for listening to us. We hope you understand good nutrition's a must. Think of variety and balanced amounts. This is good for your health and it's good for all that counts. So, and then it goes in, and every group does their own little like spotlight in that. And then at the end, it says the proper foods each time you dine can keep you fit and feeling fine. Eating right's a healthy sign, and feeling good makes each day shine and shine. And that is Kitchen Cabaret.
Love it. Actually, I don't love it. I would be honest with you. I can't stand Kitchen Cabaret. And I'm sorry, I didn't grow up with it. But looking at the 2 shows side by side, Kitchen Cabaret and Food Rocks, oh my gosh. I feel like my wires crossed and I thought that Kitchen Cabaret and Food Rocks were the same thing. They are not at all. No. They're 2 completely different shows. One replaces one in 1994. Do you have anything else about Kitchen Cabaret before we replace it?
Nope. That's it. We can move on to Food Rocks. And I will say that I watched Kitchen Cabaret with my kids because they were wondering what I was doing. And they're like, Mom, what is this? And I was like, it's vintage Disney. And they're like, no. We're like, this is weird. I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
So hang on. I have to show this because I think this is cool. So before we move to the official changeover, I just want to show a map. So this is 1993-ish before the change takes place. So we're looking at the land pavilion. There's eggs with his pavilion hat, and it does say in Kabaret on here, right? Mm-hmm. What I think is unique is I found the same map in 1994, which still has eggs. It's identical to the 93 map, and all it does is it changes it to Food Rocks. But eggs isn't any Food Rocks. Eggs not even in.
Somebody messed up. The graphic designer didn't catch it.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I was like, oh, dang, dude, that guy's not even in there.
So I guess we should start with why it changed. Food Rocks came in at that 10-year mark. Epcot had a renewal after its first 10 years of opening. And Nestle became the new sponsor of the land. So the sign changed. So I have a little picture of the sign outside the land with Nestle underneath it. And of course, they wanted kind of a refresh show to go with their new sponsorship, moving away from craft foods. So Raleigh Crump and his team looked at Kitchen Kabaret and said, like, it's a good show, but nobody knows Cabaret 40 style shows anymore. That was just really outdated. People couldn't connect with it. It didn't make any sense for them. So they wanted something that was refresh.
I vigorously shake
nodding
my head.
Nodding aggressively.
Yes. Again, I agree with everything. Raleigh, you know. Yes.
It was just time. So they brought in this new show, and I do have some pictures of the pavilion as well, where it was is the same location as where it was. So you can see it now. Yeah, they have it. We have the same photo again. Look at us.
Do you have this? Is all of yours from Yesterland?
No.
Oh, okay. So we probably have different ones.
Yeah. So I've got a close up of the sign. But it is in that same spot where it's basically like the exit for Soarin' is where this is. The queue and the exit is where this theater was. Mm-hmm. And then, so I can show you. It's later.
Now, hang on. Time out. This pillar is very integral because it's not exactly 100%. And this is going to be important later on as to, I have a hypothesis. Okay. I don't want to get into it, but I think this still exists. So I'm going to leave it at there. But there's a pillar right here. Yeah. There's Soarin' right here.
Yeah, you can see it.
This is the bathrooms. Directly in here would be like fast pass distribution. Yes, this pathway, which is the entrance to Food Rocks, exists and I think gets utilized. But Food Rocks Theater is actually here. And where the standby queue entrance is the exit. So the entrance to Soarin' is actually the exit to Food Rocks, which means the theater is in between these two, which I want to talk about that later.
Yeah, you can see the close-up of the entrance here and with the bottom of the escalator to give you a little bit more context.
It looks so cool.
Yeah, it does. So the team that worked on this show, we have Valerie Johnson-Redrow was the media producer. George Wilkins was the musical director. Ken Lennon was his lighting designer, but he had a few people on his team, including Abby Rosenholmes, who was a lighting designer for rock concerts. So she was like a big name for rock bands that were on tour. And then Ira Lichtman was also on the lighting designer team. And then Jim Steinmeier was the show writer. And of course, Raleigh Crump kind of oversaw the whole development of the show. This was replaced in 1994. March 26, 1994 is when this opened. And it was kind of a spoof of like concert benefits like World Aid and Farm Aid. That was kind of like in the back of their minds as they were developing all of this. This show was based on the food pyramid. The other one was kind of like, eat good food. Do it. I do have a press release that was from 1993, which was before, this was almost a year before it opened. So it said the audio animatronic Kitchen Kabaret, which focuses on the 4 food groups, will be replaced by a show tentatively called Food Rocks. Faux rock and roll stars Tina Tuna, Elvis Parsley will promote healthy eating.
Funny enough, we don't get Tina Tuna. She turns it down.
She does tune it.
She does tune it down. Yeah, Tina Turner was supposed to be in the show, and she actually will reject and not be a part of Food Rocks. So it's kind of funny, the press release was a little...
Yeah.
They were
So
still
I have,
with her.
if we're talking about music, so this show featured caricatures of different pop musicians as fruit and then parodies of their songs. And so like ones that were really popular, people would know in this time. Jim Steinmeier was the one that wrote the lyrics. And he said Food Rock's name came from rock songs they were using. Both him and Raleigh loved the Beach Boys, so that was the song they found first. They decided to turn the song Good Vibrations into Good Nutrition, and the rest of the show fell into place. So that's kind of the anchor piece of the show by the Beach Boys. Which makes me happy.
This entire show is fantastic, and I am so ticked that it doesn't exist, because I think it could still exist with Soren at the same time.
You know what I found? I found something really cool, Kirk. I found the actual WED documents of showing how they were going to strike the set. This from of Kitchen Cabaret. So this shows circles with like X's over them of the things they were going to strike as they were putting in the new show. And then I have the actual blueprints of like when they put in the next show. They have a little concept art in the blueprints for Food Rocks.
That's cool.
And then I've got these are really highly detailed, so I won't get into all of them. But you can see like the plate here with the fruits and vegetables, which we'll show some more pictures later. But so this is when they were changing over the theater. And I do have the actual like base plan for the theater, which we might need to study this a little bit to see wall-wise where things are, because it's pretty interesting.
I found some schematics we could overlay on that. So
oh my goodness. Look at us. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But to say a little bit more about the music, they had to get permission to use all the songs they're going to use in this, which we'll talk about in a minute, from recording companies. And most said just like, yeah, go ahead and do it. But some were so enthusiastic and even helped to record the songs depending on the artist. And some they just made, for all the songs, they made sample songs with like just regular musicians, not actual pop stars. And they played it for the musicians and said like, is this good enough? Or would you sing this? And sometimes they liked the stand-in so much that like the what is the word, like imitator, so much that they were just like, that sounds great, just use that. So Tina Turner was offered a role as Tina Tuna, who would sing a song called What's Meat Got to Do with It? But she declined the offer and she said, I like it, but it's just a little too corny for me. So she couldn't get on board with the dad joke corniness of the show. They also pitched Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons. They found it was really hard to get talent. That Sting actually, they were going to have every cake you bake, every bite you take. That was going to be a thing. And so like instead, he liked the song so much, just use the singer. So we don't have actual Sting's voice because he just liked the version they had already. And then Neil Sedaka came in to do Vegetables Are Good for You. Like, breaking up is hard to do. Yeah, vegetables are good for you. And when he came in, his wife said he's going to want to record every single like harmony and everything of it himself. So you're going to be here a while. Like, prepare to buckle down. We're going to be here all day. And it turns out he liked the voice talent so much that they used for the backup that he just sang the main harmony and they used the regular voice talent for the rest of it. Like he didn't actually stay there all day. His wife was a little wrong on that one. And then I do have a note about Little Richard. When they asked him to do his song, he said, man, I can't sing that high. And he kept messing up the lyrics again and again because he'd been singing his song. I think it's Tutti Frutti. It's a version of
Tutti Frutti, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's been singing his song forever, and a day. And so he kept singing his own lyrics and he had to like go back and re-record because he not used to singing these different lyrics to his tune. So I thought that was kind of a fun story of recording.
And we get Tone Loc ends up being the narrator for the show or the MC for the show, but also does a version of Funky Cold Medina, which is Always Read the Rapper. And he is a rapper, and his name is food rapper, but
I read that for you. I'm sorry. I was so excited.
So he's a rapper. But he is the nutritional label. He kind of looks a lot like Mr. Dairy, although Mr. Dairy does come back, just not in his normal form. He actually he sings Every Bite You Take from the refrigerator. They're actually called the refrigerator police. But yeah, I don't want to get too far into like each section yet.
Yeah.
Because I think like each one deserves its own moment. I wanted to just show some things before we entered in, if that's okay.
Yeah, can I just make a note about him? Mm-hmm. The reason that he became the MC of the show was because they just loved him so much when they were working with him for his song. They invited him to do the MC gig as well. So that's how he ended up being the MC. So
yeah, they love Tone Loc, and for this, and honestly, later on in his career, Disney just is going to write him a blank check. So did you make the connection? No.
Didn't.
You never saw the movie Blank Check?
No, I did now. I got it.
And Tone Loc's name in Blank Check was Juice. And he was supposed to show up at the bank and be like, hey, this is Juice. And the guy is like, here's your check for $1 million from Snapper. It's ridiculous.
Oh, my goodness.
The whole premise of that movie is insane. Okay, so on the outside, when we move through the facade, did you have anything else before we get into actually looking at the physical space and then into the individual acts?
I mean, I have like stuff in the queue waiting area.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm getting into the queue.
Yeah, looks like we've got some of the same posters. Do you want to?
All right, ready? I'll take the first batch, you take the next batch, and so on until we're done. Okay, so first up, it has like little nutritional fun facts, but it's like in poster form, but they're painted on murals. I never knew this. This is kind of like, these are fun facts even for me. Cashews are never sold in the shell, which I never thought of. Apparently, their shells are related to poison ivy and have like an irritating oil on them. And then, according to medieval magicians, if you put celery seeds in their shoes, you would be able to fly. So, there you go.
That's great. I'm going to start doing that. I have, why is there a stalk of celery in a Bloody Mary? Since ancient Rome, celery has been thought of as a hangover remedy. So I feel like it's good for food and wine. That's a good little tidbit. And also, celery. 3,000 years ago, Chinese warriors used their helmets not only for protection, but to prepare their meals. They take them off, turn them over, and cook in them just like using a wok. It's very practical.
Yeah, honestly, that's using your noggin noodle. I have the beer one.
Okay.
So there's the Egypt. The first beer was brewed in Egypt and Babylon around 1750 BC. I would argue no, it was actually in Sumeria, but I'm nitpicking. Also, fun fact, the first brewers in ancient Egypt, at least, were all women, and most of the workers, and I'm not talking about people that were indentured, but workers who built the pyramids, most of them were paid in liters of beer was a part of their compensation per day. And then over here, the Roman goddess Ceres watched over the ancient women who planted and harvested grain, which was used to make what we now know as cereal.
It's pretty great. That's fun. A little educational versus just giant
education
posters.
Education. Edutainment.
Alrighty, shall we move into the theater? Are we ready to move to...
I'm hungry, so let's do.
I don't know if I actually laid out this show in here, so you might walk us through this one if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries. What you're looking at here is all of the cast of characters at the very end of the finale, but we basically are looking at a kitchen set up with an oven, cabinets, refrigerator, produce basket, a hanging fish from a chandelier, normal, a plate, and then on the left-hand side is where food wrapper is. But this center plate is what will tell us who is actually performing in this show at any given moment. So that's the dead center section. And we go through 12 different songs. So it's audio animatronics for the most part, and a lot of them are pretty static, meaning they're either flats, like they're not necessarily like fully sculpted. Some of them are just like plywood, but it moves. But then some of them are more of that sculpted figure. It just depends on where they are geographically in the space as to if it's something that's going to be larger or bigger and needs to show more detail, that ended up getting sculpted. Anything that was further in the back, not as important. Like, for example, even just the refrigerator facade itself is just one giant sheet of painted plywood. So that just depends. Yeah. But we get 12 different songs, and we start off with Tone Loc basically kind of working us through the entire kitchen. And first part that we hear is, we'll make it count in the kitchen by the utensils, and it's to Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, which does come back, and they use that as a finale track, which is fantastic. I highly suggest anybody, we're not going to play them here. You need to go and listen to each one of these, because it's absolutely fantastic. But right after that, we get into the Peach Boys. So remember, Raleigh Crump loves the Beach Boys and wanted to do something with them. So instead of woo, good vibration, we're talking ooh, good nutrition. And so they sing that whole entire song. And then Food Rapper comes on and says, man, nothing like the oldies. And then there is in the back, it's almost like hecklers the entire time, is this metal thrasher band. So that's Food Rapper. No. Show Food Rapper real quick. So Food Rapper has these stylized, glittery shades. And he's kind of, it's interesting because he's just straight up a rapper. He's not on any package anymore. And he just has all the nutritional facts on him. But his actual material is like a canvas sheeting. But his mouth has the ability through wires to open and close. And then he's got high tops on that look like Converse, which I love. It's just fantastic. But his hands, if you look at his hands are just flat, two-dimensional. They don't do anything. They just sit there. So
yeah, I would argue that these characters are a lot less audio animatronic than just simple animation. I feel like the amount of time they invested in creating their characters in terms of actually creating the mechanisms for them was a lot less with Food Rocks than it was with Kitchen Kabaret. Not saying it's a lesser show. I just think that they didn't put as much energy into creating these audio animatronics in this show.
I think more budget went to licensing music than it did towards actual set piece and characters. Although I do think all of the characters they're supposed to be funny. At the result, I think it nails that, and the songs are so strong that it pulls the entire show. Like where in Kitchen Kabaret, and again, I didn't grow up with it, so my nostalgia is not as strong as a lot of folks that did grow up with it would feel the complete opposite of me. But I grew up with all of these songs in the 90s. So rewatching it, I was having a blast.
Me too.
Like cackling, laughing. The jokes are funny. The song parodies are great. It reminds me of like being at like a Weird Al concert or listening to one of those Weird Al albums when I was in 5th grade. And just like, it's so good. It's so well done. So please go on YouTube and watch this whole show. It's short. It's like 15 minutes long, but you'll love every bit of it.
Okay. You said you wanted the hecklers?
Yeah.
I got the hecklers.
Yeah, so in the back, the hecklers are all like junk food. So like trashy food that isn't supposed to be good for you. And they're like a metal, grungy, but like more punk rocky kind of bands. And they always kind of, they're called like the junk talkers. And they're like, that old nutrition stuff, give us a break. They don't want to hear about nutrition. And like, Food Rapper basically has to stop them from talking the entire show because they're always interrupting in between songs.
So, don't care about what you eat, just eat what. Right. Yeah, they're kind of just like, they're discouraging you away from healthy eating. That's what their goal is.
Yes. So the next part of the show is we're bringing back Mr. Dairy, but he's just going to be the the lead singer of the Refrigerator Police, who is a parody of the Police, singing Every Step I Take, but instead it's every bite you take, every cake you bake, every milk you shake, every egg you break will be part of you, which I love. Like, honestly, Hippocrates talked about how food was medicine. The lyrics here, fantastic. You know? It's I love it. It's really funny, it's really clever, and it's just all around great. So, all right, into the next scene is, you can't forget about...
Did you see the next line on there? Every single dish, every bread and fish, every fried knish, like a secret wish is part of you.
It's great, isn't it?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's clever, it's interesting, you know. Okay, so the next one is the next one is from Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, but instead this is called High Fiber by Pita Gabriel.
Pita, P-I-T-A, Pita Gabriel.
And so at one point he's basically saying like, I wanna be your high fiber. Why don't you take a bite? The part that I love is that they put a little sledgehammer in his hand. So while he is singing his song, he has a little sledgehammer as he's banging it around our little Pita Gabriel.
I'm trying to remember. This isn't him, is it?
That is him. Yeah, that's him. And if you look, it's hard for you to see, but just like pull. Oh, that's perfect. In his left hand is his little tiny sledgehammer. So he has like an open hand, and you can see as a pita, he's like stuffed with lots of vegetables and carrots and leafy greens, and you know, he's talking about high fiber foods. Like a tortilla might be nice, leafy green salad, big bowl of rice, some red beans. Okay, now the junk talkers come back and they start complaining about salads, which feels, I get it. And then the next part is, this is Food Rapper, and he's going to do Funky Cold Medina, but always read the rapper is this one. And it's a good rap. I'm not going to go through it. It's real. If you know Funky Cold Medina, which has got like a great, it's just great. And it's Tone Loc rapping it, which makes it even better, you know? I'm going to tell a quick aside. I almost saw Tone Loc perform live in Boston, Massachusetts at a dive bar, but I fell asleep and they kicked me out at like 11:20 p.m. It was like one of those like open bar, open food. And we were there. I'm in my 20s and I'm like not like a crazy person, but like I get a little tired. So I was eating a little cheese, a little celery, putting the seeds in there, trying to fly. And I fell asleep and they kicked me out before I could see Tone Loc perform. I swear. Like the funniest thing ever.
That is sad.
I never saw it. All right, next one is Cher. And Cher is the soul of rock and roll. And she sings the Shoop Shoop song, a.k.a. It Is in His Kiss. That's where it is. And this one is reframed as just keep it lean. And she's talking about protein. So meat can be neat if you keep it lean. And then she goes in and talks about
keep it lean, try something. Oh, exactly, Mama. I can't sing right now because I'm coming out with a cold.
That's pretty good.
That's all.
I'd like a tuna roll. I've got an appetite, or tuna casserole. That's what it is. So good. Really funny. All right. Next up is Little Richard. And
oh, because this is the one he couldn't sing. Tutti.
Yeah, Little Richard, and Tutti Frutti is his song, and it is Tutti Frutti, but this time he's talking about like bananas being ripe. I love a ripe old banana or a nice blue pear. what he's talking about. Blue pear.
Blue pear.
What kind of pears are blue?
They're like, we got to find a word to fit in there. So
Yeah.
it's going to be blue.
Yeah, like what is...
I look to the east, I look to the west. Everywhere the fruit tastes best, tutti frutti. Oh, tutti frutti. So they didn't change too much of those lyrics, you know. That's actually pretty accurate.
Okay,
Oh,
next
like
up we have Vegetables Are Good For You by Neil Musica. And this is Neil, well, I mean, it depends. I don't know how to say it. I can't remember when I went to these Greek agoras, if it was Musica or if it was Moussaka. I have no idea. I thought it was Musica. I thought it was Musica. Like it's like a noodle dish. It reminds me of noodle table. It's very similar.
I'm sorry if I offended anybody who is Greek and knows how to pronounce that properly. So sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
These things.
Okay. So breaking up is hard to do. And he's doing vegetables are good for you.
Don't take my squash away from me. Don't you leave me with that broccoli. Eat your spinach, yes, it's true. Because vegetables are good for you.
They are, Kate. They're a very important part of about diet. Now, what's interesting about the next one is this is the only one that actually doesn't get a character doesn't get a physical, as we call him, more an animated puppet kind of style. And he is a silhouette. And this is going to be for Chubby Checkers, The Twist, but instead it's going to be Chubby Cheddar, and it's going to be Let's Exercise. Come on, baby, let's exercise. It's really wise to exercise.
And he's just over there in the shadow, and the shadow's doing...
He's just dancing in the background, yeah.
Great. So the twist, by the way, on a little tiny tangent, the twist was so big that they did it in the middle of a parade in Disneyland in 1962. They literally had everybody, like all the guests could come in the middle of the street and do the twist with the characters. And they're all doing the twist. The seven dwarfs are doing the twist with Snow White. It was such a huge dance craze. Like the Macarena, you think of like the Macarena also had like everybody was doing that back in the day. So the twists.
Do you want another story?
Did you do the Macarena somewhere?
I met in similar time period. Chubby Checkers had another person. I met Chubby Checkers in a grocery store in my hometown. And you want to know why?
Why?
Because he was doing a commercial, like a tour of the country for Oreos. And they had an Oreo dressed up and would like dance, because with the Oreos, you would do the twist and you would twist it off. I have a signed photo from Chubby Checkers and a picture with me and him and the Oreo doing the twist. I kid you not. Yeah,
I feel like
find that.
Every episode of Distory, we learn about a new celebrity that we've met in some obscure ways.
It's a weird one, because I remember the picture and it's Chubby Checkers. Like, you know how they had those like headshots that everybody would sign, those like black and white glossy headshots? Well, it was exactly that. It was Chubby Checkers like this, and then the Oreo was like... It's like a horrible but great picture.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so now the junk, or the excess is the name of this, and this is an original song. The junk starts just singing their like heavy metal version, punk rock version of just eat whatever you want and don't exercise at all. Like just eat empty calories, grease, and sugar too. Junk will be fine with junk.
But apparently it was such, I mean, I've heard it, but it was such a bop. Like people loved it, which wasn't really their intention. Like they didn't want people to love the excess because they wanted them to know you shouldn't eat that way. But people loved them. So,
well, because they were punk. That whole scene was very popular at that time. So it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. So after them, we get to the Point Sisters, which is actually the Pointer Sisters recorded that, so it's their actual voices, which is they're singing Respect, RESPECT.
But they used it as like eating in moderation, so their big thing was just a little bit.
Don't be greedy.
Like, yeah, just basically, but moderation means eat just a little bit. That's right, just a little bit. Right. And our last thing is choose before you chew. The entire cast, again, to that Queen Bohemian Rhapsody, is the final song to kind of wrap everything up. Which is a great song.
Oh, Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah. And like, as soon as they started doing Bohemian Rhapsody, I was like, they should bring this back. Like, of all the things they should bring back, they should bring this one back. Because food love it.
No joke, if they brought back Food Rocks right now, people would freak out. And if you had never heard of it and you went into it, like, all right, ready? I got 2 ideas. 1, get rid of Awesome Planet. 2, put in Food Rocks there. That way you don't have to disrupt anything with Soarin'. But, and this is a big but, I think it still exists. I think that stage still exists.
Okay, well, yes and no. Some of it exists. Raleigh Crump actually did say that a portion of it is behind the queue and it's just sitting there. So he said the stage is still partially behind the walls of the queue for Soarin', which is what replaced it, but it's only part of it. So it's not the full thing. But do you have the pictures? Because I have the pictures of what's back there.
So I did have a few of those, but here's a top-down blueprint of here's the restrooms. Technically, Soarin', the way that you go through, you're actually entering through this way, right? So next to the stage. So like this stage area is here. This is the exit queue for both, for Soarin', and this was the entrance section that we saw for Food Rocks. So like this stage still exists. When you go through Soarin' and you look to the right and there's a massive wall, or when you look to the right and there's a massive wall, behind that is Food Rocks or parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
It is. It's just like, just put a wall up. There's actually
it exists.
At an Epcot, there's all kinds of little exhibits that have that still kind of are there. There's some pictures of what's back there. So here's the fridge. That's just the painted plywood fridge. And then there's one of the pieces of the stage there. And then I think this is really more of the stage. You can see. This is just chilling back there.
If they replaced Awesome Planet with Food Rocks, and they probably couldn't do Food Rocks anymore, right? Because of licensing issues and everything else. But if they replaced Awesome Planet with a nutritional-based, contemporized, it would crush. Because it was huge back then. People loved Kitchen Cabaret, the folks that grew up in that 82 to 94 era. And then folks from the 94 to 2004 era loved Food Rocks. So the fact that we don't have one, I feel like is a miss. Huge miss.
Yeah, I agree. But it actually wasn't that popular when it was around. And I think it's because people really liked Kitchen Cabaret. It's like when you replace anything. So, we've seen that recently with favorite rides that get replaced with something and people are like, no, but I really love the original and I don't want to love this one. And so, I think that we love it now because those songs are nostalgic for us. At the time, I could see if people thought there's like, this is just kind of cheesy or like ruining the song that I love or something. For us now, we're just like, this is fabulous because it was like our childhood, but in like this wonderful, weird way, I
don't know. I think people attach to music really strongly, especially with contemporary music. And I think it would be a good way to bring in younger kids into talking about food nutrition, even if it just starts a conversation. I think all that stuff is really helpful because we are not getting healthier as a society as a whole. So I think a little bit of food nutrition could go a long way. Or just bring the excess back and let them have a whole show. And let's just go full bore into Wally and I'll just drink blue or green or whatever the meal color is for the day.
Well, it just goes back to what they originally were trying to achieve with Epcot. The whole theory, the idea behind Epcot was, of course, there's different worlds and different different parts into all the different lands. But, you know, the land was a combination of this like food education and agriculture. And that was what it was about. And now we really lost a big portion of that. Soarin' is fun, and Soarin' used to be, when it was Soarin' over California, had a lot more of like the land part of that. It has a little bit, it's more like global land now. It's a little bit less concrete. We still do have Living with the Land, so we still have that. There used to be a farmer's market there. The restaurant, I found this picture. I don't know if you ran into this one. The restaurant was called The Good Turn.
Oh, that was Garden Grill. Because it spun around? Because
it spins, yeah. And but it made me think about like the good turn, as in, you know, the way that we use our food and thinking about, you know, smart uses of the way that we grow and process and produce our food and consume our food, you know. So I think we've lost a lot of that educational quality of Epcot, which a lot of people lament, because it really was some of the original vision of the Imagineers. So this show was great for that. It was edutainment. It was entertaining, but it also did teach you a little bit about nutrition and maybe something that for you. Yes, for the conversation. I agree with that.
I like here's my problem is I look at this whole entire area, and some of the pavilions I think are still utilized well. The seas, I think land is underutilized with Awesome Planet. That theater needs help. I think Imagination is fine. Yeah, I think they could do a better job in the Imagination Pavilion section afterwards, but it's okay. Everyone loves Cosmic, so no change there. I can't believe we don't have the Play Pavilion, because if you look back, this is an early 2000s map. I love the Wonders of Life. Body Wars was one of my absolute favorite attractions that they ever had, and Cranium Commands, which both deserve a Distory episode themselves.
Yes.
This is before they built Mission Space, and Test Track was still the original edition. You know, so, and I don't know, I really miss, and even Horizons. I missed Horizons when that was there before Mission Space, you know? So.
Yeah, and World of Motion, we've lost World of Motion too. So there's like most of Epcot, most of the original Epcot is gone, except for World Showcase and Spaceship Earth. Like the majority of it is just kind of disappeared, which is sad. I mean, I do like progress. I'm good with change. I am a nostalgic person, but I'm okay with the idea that we should progress and grow and do new things. But the fact that we've lost the spirit of what Epcot was, that is what bothers me the most, because the vision behind it was so wonderful, of the idea that it was a place for thinking and growing and discovering and learning. And it's not really that anymore. It's some of that, but it's not its main focus, you know?
As a kid, I loved for Haunted Mansion and Pirates, but Epcot is where I really played, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I would go and I'd be on Peloton Beta Edition. Do you remember those bikes?
Yeah.
You get on these bikes and they had a video screen, and it was just a video, but the video would play based on how you would move. So if you pedaled faster, the video would play faster, and it was just somebody on a street. Like it wasn't even advanced, but back then I was like, this is so cool. It's like you're really there pedaling.
Virtual.
But like then you would go into Body Wars, and you would learn about how the body fights off germs and everything. And honestly, it was the same exact style of attraction as, well, similar to Star Tours. It was a little dumbed down with the way that the shuttle system worked, but like I can imagine if they implemented the way that Star Tours works with that, you would have a high capacity attraction in Epcot that teaches kids about how their body functions and fights off disease. I don't know. I think that was a miss.
Well,
pavilion, shutting that entire pavilion down was a miss.
They just lost sponsorship. That's the only reason. They didn't have funding for it anymore, and it needed updated and all that kind of stuff. And you know, it came down to dollars and cents, and dollars and cents is unfortunately what makes Epcot go round, or at least did for many, many years. Now Disney's kind of reclaimed a lot of Epcot, where some of it's still sponsored and some of it is just their own IP. But because all that was sponsored, when the sponsors didn't want to pay for it anymore, if they couldn't find for another sponsor for it, it just disappeared. And that's what we saw happen all over Epcot.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because I feel like the guest experience faltered and the whole mission principle of Epcot fell apart.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like when I bring my kids there, it's not a learning experience.
No, I mean,
Except for
educational.
KidCon.
Yeah.
KidCon is.
Yeah.
KidCon's great. Little semblance of it. It's like my kids don't learn anything when they go on Cosmic Rewind. You know what I mean?
Learn about what the Imagineers do and the cool things they produce when they get older, and can teach them about those things. I want to say one more thing before we leave Food Rocks entirely, because there's some really cool facts that I found about the lighting design for it. I don't know if you have the video still handy, just of the beginning with the lights kind of like bouncing around all crazy.
I don't, but I'll get it up.
Okay. So this was the first time that there was ever a rock concert show in a park, not just like a show like Videopolis was there, obviously, with like a real rock concert, but an actual show that would perform over and over and over again that was specifically a rock concert. They had other kind of concerts. We had Country Bear Jamboree. We had a lot of other concerts, but this was the first actual like rock concert. So because they had a contract that allowed them to have access to a whole bunch of new kinds of lighting, they really got to have fun with this one. So one of their lighting designers was the woman, I'm trying to remember her name, was Abby. It was Abby Rosenholm. She was the one that worked for all those rock concerts that went on tour, and she would program all of the lighting for that. So when they actually programmed the show twice, once they did with this original 80s Genesis hardware and these like older lights, and then they upgraded and they got a new fixtures, and then they programmed with a state of the art lighting equipment. So if you want to play that, this idea of all these lights bouncing around with all these different colors and just kind of being all crazy, this was actually an accident. They didn't mean for this to happen. As the show and the console crashed, and it made the lights do this, where they're just kind of changing colors and bouncing all off of everything. And they actually loved it so much that they decided to program the lights that way. So the lighting doing that is only because of the programming glitch of the console crashing. So it's like a happy accident. And the other thing I have about this is that they had these things called gobos, which are patterns on the lights that they created for a lot of the different scenes. So they had a spoon and a fork pattern for one, and then they also had an orange pattern. And what they did from that is somebody went to their lunch and they took an orange and they took a slice from it. They Xeroxed the slice of orange, and then they made it into a scan for the show and put it in the lighting. So there's orange lighting in there that's actually from one of the Imagineers' lunches, which I think is pretty amazing.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So you can see kind of all the shapes on the lighting and stuff that they have. So those gobos is what they're called. So anyway, just a few fun facts about the lighting before we leave Food Rocks entirely. We'll say Food Rocks, when did it close? I think I made a note on that. January 3rd, 2004 is when it closed, and then we never saw that. And I think Elliot pointed out when we were watching this together, he liked the line the cast member said. They said, "Always choose before you chew," was their exit line. So I thought it was cute.
It's again a good nutritional story to teach. Oh, here's the excess again. It's so good. Although when I first saw this, I was like, "Is that kind of like a bowl with garlic or onion?"
What is an onion? Yeah.
I still think he's an onion because like he'd be like bitter and whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like
he looks like he's a bag tied with something. Because if you look at
right?
a gathered bag that
what does he have inside that's junk food? Do you know what I mean? But it's something.
I don't know, a bag of sugar, but he doesn't look like sugar. He has no teeth though, and it says
You have to rot it out.
He has a tattoo that has a heart with a knife through it. It says something above it, but I can't make it out. So I don't know. Like, what is the purple guy behind him? Like, what are they? What is this guy?
Yeah, I don't know what any of them are.
So anyway, that's all I have for Food Rocks. But that has been a fun adventure.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I found some photos of them, what they look like now. Did you see those?
I didn't see any of the characters or anything. I just saw set pieces.
Okay, well, brace yourself. Here he is.
Oh no!
This is what he looks like now, a shadow of his former self.
Oh my gosh!
Definitely, he's lost his shades in the process. And then I also have Ham, jump scare warning. He's frightening because he's missing his eyes. But that's Ham from Ham and Eggs. Is still kicking around out there somewhere. And here's a greater one. They had like an exhibit in Epcot of the Food Rocks attraction, and they had just all the pieces of them. So you can see,
so cool.
Yeah, they're still around, but they don't look very nice anymore.
I heard, this is completely unsubstantiated, but I heard that Bonnie Appetit is used, because there was 5 of them. One of them is, because it's like a clear exoskeleton, they use her to show like inner workings to like newer fine audio and animatronic.
Yeah, I heard that too. So
yeah,
for what it's worth, I also have this.
Food Rocks, man.
Yeah, Food Rocks. Well, I think that's it, unless you've got anything else.
I got nothing. I got no excess.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of Distory. We hope you enjoyed this food adventure through Kitchen Kabaret and Food Rocks. We'll be back next week with another show about something. We haven't figured that out yet, but it'll be great. So we have a long list of stuff that we want to go through. But as always, we really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening with us and enjoying and learning along with us on this Distory adventure. So do you have any final thoughts there, Kirk?
Choose what you chew.
Yeah, that's good advice. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time.